the science behind what marketers do and the technology we use and the data we work to. It's far more technical and scientific than I think sometimes the perception is.
This is The Talent Show, a new podcast series from FT Talent, a hub of innovation from the Financial Times. It's hosted by under 30s for the under 30s around the world. This second series is about all the aspects the FT organization is covering today, from editorial to development, from data to talent. I am Virginia Stagni, and this is a guide we designed to inspire you to be the one driving innovation and change. Welcome to the show. All right, another episode of our talent show, the second series. This series is all about the different departments and career paths that you can meet, encounters and experience here at the Financial Times, London, New York, Manila, Sofia, so many different offices around the globe. And of course, as always, we are in the Bracken House in London, 1 Friday Street. And today I have an amazing guest. He is the Managing Director of the Consumer Revenue Group here at the Financial Times, Fiona Spooner. How are you, Fiona?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks very much for having me. This is very exciting.
Thank you, Fiona. I'd really love to know more about what do you do as a Managing Director for a Consumer Revenue Group? So many words. So would you like to walk us through your career path and how did you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm Managing Director of the Consumer Revenue Group. What that means is that I oversee all of the consumer revenue generating work that we do. So that's mostly subscriptions from individuals. And part of what we do, so we've got 4 pillars that we work to in our group. One is very focused on the customer and all customer insights, really understanding the needs of customers. And we've got a customer care team on the front line, talking to customers every day, answering their queries, responding to their needs all around their digital and print subscriptions, and sharing that insight back into the team. We've got a pillar around bringing in new customers. So it's our role to bring in new audiences to the FT, not just new audiences, the right audiences, make sure that we're bringing in the right audiences for the business. We work on engagement and retention and making sure that we keep those customers, build good experiences for them. And then the part that you work on, and particularly, is business development. How do we add value to the business? How do we add value to the customers? And bring those audiences to life and share experiences across the business, be that with FT Live and events or FT Professional, and other opportunities like FT Talent. So, as you said, I've been working in marketing roles throughout that. I started in marketing, working on events, and I've pretty much worked in every marketing role around the business, from events to brand to B2B, specialist, print subscriptions, and then later on digital subscriptions. And that's where I've spent the last few years. I've had the privilege of working on our access model and all of the evolution of that, and acquisition and retention, and kind of worked through all of those different roles, and that's a lot what's kept me here.
What does it mean to do a B2C driven marketing for a newspaper today?
So, we talk about quality journalism, and quality journalism costs money. So, we have a role to make sure that we're driving the revenue to support that. And so for me and my team, it's bringing in individual readers, being able to showcase FT journalism to wider audiences. We work with you a lot on how do we engage younger audiences. That's a really important part of what we do in the consumer revenue team, is engaging with other audiences for 2 reasons, really. One, because it's important for the growth of the business, but also very much because it's important for more and more people to have access to good journalism. And, we've got a responsibility to a democratic society that more and more people can make this. The revenue side of it is where it's a balance, because we have to make sure that, we provide that access in formats and places that people can read or listen or watch it, but also while making sure that we are generating the revenue and growing the business so we can reinvest it, so we can build it, so we can invest in our journalism, so we can invest in our teams. We have, some of the best people in the industry working on this, and then that's what we need to be making sure that we can we can fund. So, we bring in individual subscribers and grow our audiences on a one-to-one basis. And I think that's where the customer insight piece as well is really important on that individual reader. How do we listen to our customers? We evolve the business by making sure that we're understanding what they're reading, what they want from us, the formats that they want to read us in, and making sure that we evolve the business and evolve the way that we're talking to them in a way that it suits their individual needs, not their corporate business needs as much.
Would you mind explaining this? What does it mean? What's the big difference about being a personalized driven business and FT, a customized one?
For me, it's, we talk about data a lot. It's been core to everything we do, and really understanding what people are doing and responding to that is key to what we do, and especially for a marketer. So I would say we're data informed, not data led. So we always need that human element and aspect to it, and to make the right decisions. And the customization piece instead of personalization, and there's a lot of talk about AI and machine learning, and we use this in what we do. But the unique value of the FT and the reason people come to us is because they want to know what the FT thinks and what our journalists' our views are. So if you over personalize things, then some of that gets missed. So I think it's that customization to understand people's needs and respond to it, make sure the right content's in front of them, but not over personalizing it, that it loses some of the unique value that we bring.
You have launched with your team a very interesting product that we have been promoting all the time. So guys, if you haven't, look in the show notes, FT Edit. Would you like to tell us a bit more of what's behind FT Edit and what is the role of a product like this new app for acquisition generally?
Yeah, so this is a really exciting development we have. We launched the FT Edit. It's its birthday today, actually. And we've got some really exciting influencer activity happening today. Tim Spector's just gone live this morning. Check it out. And that was really in a response to the feedback we were getting. We've got this core audience who read the FT every day, and we've got, the subscriptions and expensive packages, but on our drive to make more journalism accessible and respond to that feedback that people want to be able to consume more snippets of the news, or be able to not be overwhelmed, to read something front to back some days and feel like they're learning something new, reading something they didn't realize they wanted to know, but be informed, and for curious, ambitious people. Then the Edit is a new app that is 8 articles a day, curated by our editorial team about the things that you might not have known that you want that are going on, and the important things to know about. And it's really an introductory way of accessing FT content that's not a core, full-priced everything you need to know about the world subscription. So we want to bring more people in and make that content more accessible, and that's part of it.
You said before marketer, like being a marketer. What can we explain it to our listeners? Very in general, what does it mean to be a marketer?
That's a good question. And someone said to me recently, actually, you're a managing director, you're not a marketer anymore. And I was like, oh, hang on. And then I thought, no, I'll always be a marketer. And actually, that's that's part of my DNA, really. That's what I've always loved to do. So to me, what is it to be a marketer? It's very much about curiosity, understanding human behavior, being able to understand what people need and want, look at how they behave, and see how we can influence it in a positive way, to respond to their needs, and to add that creativity piece in there. I think it's to me it's a job that I've always loved to do, and I will always be a marketer, no matter what I do, I think. Yeah.
So when you were younger, you wanted to work in marketing? Was your first... Okay, what you wanted to do when you were young?
Well, I don't know if I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do. that helped. I didn't want to be a lawyer or a dentist or a doctor or a banker, which is what kind of, the only jobs that we were told about when I was growing up. But I knew I wanted to do something with people. I studied social policy actually at university, so it was a mixture of sociology and politics. So depending on what day you met me, I would either want to be a social worker or the next female prime minister.
Here we go. Hey, you are the first female managing director at FT, so not so bad.
But yeah, I think then in hindsight, I was always passionate about how policy and decisions made at government level impact people's lives and the social and economic fallout from some of those things. I wrote my dissertation on transracial adoption, for example, looking at the policies and the social impact around things like that has always been really interesting to me. So now I look back and I think, working at the FT, it's not too far a step away in using some of that interest in my day-to-day job. But yeah, I kind of fell into marketing, and I'm one of those lucky people that fell into the right job for them.
Do you think in your role, do you see that journalism still has a political role for society at large? And especially, I'm asking you this question, and I'm not asking a journalist, because we always, and we repeat this, that in news companies or media enterprises, you have this state-church balance, that's a wall that we need to keep, but also we need to make it a bit more flexible around what the newsroom is doing and what all the other departments are doing to make the newsroom job better and more relevant. What is your take on that, based on your past, or I guess present passion also for politics?
Oh, that's a big question. Yes, I mean, journalism has a huge role in making sure that people are informed and the facts and shared and stated, and holding power to account, and making sure that somebody is watching and reporting on the way businesses are run, politicians behave. That's all a huge responsibility. I think that commercial editorial relationship is really important. That church-state divide is one to be absolutely respected, but I think where we have at the FT is an understanding of both teams and that mutual respect for our roles. We would never ever influence what our journalists write, never in a million years. But do we share who our audience is and the data behind what people are engaging with and all those insights, and talk about it? Absolutely. I think that's what's key, is that shared understanding and shared visibility of that data. But it's an important role they have.
I just wanted to ask you if you had any career tips out of any difficult time you might have had in this journey to MD role.
Yeah. There's been a lot of challenges along the way. I think professionally, some of the biggest challenges were through COVID and leading teams in a really, what we call turbulent times. But I think what I speak to most people about, and what my passion is about, because of the most difficult times I've found in my career, is returning to work after maternity leave. I think being a working parent, but really being a working mother is particularly hard. And coming back after maternity leave, I found really, really difficult.
Can you elaborate a bit about that?
My children are 10 and 6, so I came back to from maternity leave 9 and 5 years ago. And the difference between both of those was huge, thankfully, because the world had moved on and the FT had moved on quite a lot. But, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was married, and people would say to me, "Oh, when are you having children? When are you having children?" And I would always say, "Oh, I don't want them. I don't want them," because I felt like I couldn't admit to be thinking about it. And then when I came back from maternity leave with my son, I came back in a time where I was around no women who were working full time here. All the things that everyone says happened. I came back to a different job. I asked to work flexibly and couldn't. I felt bad about leaving at 5 o'clock. I used to sneak out at 5 o'clock, hide my coat by the door, never admit that I had a child. People would make comments about, you work part-time, don't you? But actually I worked one day at home. I was like, I don't work part-time. And I think a moment for me that I look back on now is when one day someone said to me that I worked with really closely, and I think my son was about 18 months at the time, and said, I didn't realise that you have a baby. And I was like, oh, that's great. I took that as a real compliment. And I was like, I'm winning. Yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah. And now when I think about that, that's awful. Yeah. So fortunately, by the time I had my second one and came back, the world had changed, and the FT particularly had changed, and put in some really good, positive steps to change that. And I made a decision that I'm going to not do any of those things. So what they call leaving loudly, at 5 o'clock, I would tell everyone good night and I'm going. And I felt real responsibility, especially to all the women in my team, that they could see that to be open about having a family and be open about the challenges about working. We'd put in a buddy system at that point. We had a whole return to work program. There was a lot more honesty and conversation happening. And I think the tips are around networking and asking people for help and really talking about the challenges and asking how other people do it. And I think that's, whether you have children or not, I think that's a really important thing to do. Any difficult things around getting a new job or having different experiences or being a new manager or other personal things that you're trying to deal with at the same time is asking for help and finding people in similar situations and speaking to them about it.
What's your vision in the next 2 to 3 years? Where do you think our team is going to be focusing on? Looking at trends, looking at what's happening on the market, and the status of it. The state of the art now for news.
Really, we're focusing on growth. Well, what does that mean? And I think for me, the aspiration is for our audience to be as big as our brand. I think we've done very well in growing the business, but really, I also feel like we're just scratching the surface. So 2 things we're working on that I think are really exciting. One is around things like the edit, making our journalism more accessible. So what other formats can we do? What other opportunities are there to bring in younger audiences, different audiences? We're very passionate about having more diverse audiences, and things like our female reader engagement is at record levels at the moment. All of that is really important. And I think to be able to look back in a couple of years' time and see that those new audiences have grown and it's a more diverse audience and we've got a wider product portfolio to suit all of those individual needs is going to be really exciting. On the other side, the things that you and your team are working on is, what else can we do for our customers? How can we grow that? How can we, add value to this really influential, curious, ambitious audience we have around the world? How can we serve their needs, but also, provide more value to the people around them? And how can we experiment? So it's not just at the moment our consumer revenue group is very subscription revenue focused, but how do we diversify those revenue streams and how do we change that portfolio into new and experiment with new ideas and new products?
What do you think is the most needed talent in your team at the moment?
I think it is, to be cliche, but I really do think it is that curiosity. I think that, ideas come from everywhere. And I think for me, if you care about people and how they behave and you care about, you're curious about subscriptions, for example, or you're curious about the news and the media, then you're going to come with ideas and enthusiasm for change and different ways of working, and that openness that comes with it, I think, is really important.
If you had one piece of advice for our younger listeners today, in terms of they have a big passion for news. They might want to enter in this industry, not necessarily the Financial Times, but they have a lot of activities, passions, they are testing and so on. But what would you be your piece of advice in terms of what you should know about the news that is quite challenging? And you cannot really see it if you're not within the industry.
What should you know about the news that you can't see?
Yeah, this industry. What is like? What do you think your younger self entering now at the Financial Times? What Fiona would have found difficult, and I wish I knew this before coming to the FT, so I could have prepared or read more about this and so on. What do you think is the most challenging?
So I think probably it's that people maybe assume that this industry is still print-based and slow. And, for us, people assume it's all about finance. And it's none of those things. And I think, again, I came into the FT thinking that, and I'd be here for about a year. And then I realised, actually, this is a media company. It's exciting. It's changing all the time. Technology impacts it. The news agenda impacts it. So I think to my younger self, I would say, be open-minded, be open to opportunities. People talk about this career ladder. Yeah. I've never experienced that because I think once I got my boss's job in all the different jobs I've done, and only once in all the jobs I've done did I move into a job that already existed. So I think being open-minded about what the next step and career move is, because it is really, a constantly evolving industry. So if you don't see your dream job in it, after a while, that could very easily change quite quickly. So I think being curious and being open-minded and asking people about what they do is really important.
So now our time with our challengers. Please welcome to our podcast studio, Rachel and Asa. Rachel, from you, I met you in New York. Just walk us through why you're here, why you happen to be in London. I'm so happy to see you again. Over to you.
Yes. So I'm Rachel. I am a student at New York University. I'm a third-year student, and this is my semester abroad here in London. I participated in the FT Challenge back in February 2021, and since then I've been an ambassador and helped out with the New York City's first ever FT Challenge, and it's an honor to be here today. So my question for you, Fiona. Most of your career has been with the FT since 2003, and earlier in the podcast, you mentioned moving through different departments and ownership changes. I was wondering, throughout your time here, how have you been cognizant of the influences of the company's culture on your assumptions, your beliefs, your work styles? And now, as a managing director, how do you lead your department, leverage culture? I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's great to meet you. So I think I'm always cognizant of the way we make people feel and the impact that culture has on people's being able to work, to be their best selves. If we can create the right culture for people, and part of my job, I think, is an enabler to connect people and make them feel like they're empowered to make decisions, to do their jobs properly, then that all leads into successful business. So it's all related. And I think feeling like I can influence that culture from not just in this role, from every role that I've done has been really important. And I think that's part of the reason why I think that everyone should be able to feel like they can be part of the culture and change it, influence it, and call it out when the behaviour and the values of teams or people aren't suitable for a culture like the FT. It's such a big reason why people work here, and I think it's something we have to proactively protect. I think through COVID we all learned about how important that was too, and I think we're still learning now how we maintain that culture, and we actually would prioritise it while we're still getting used to this more hybrid world.
Thank you, Rachel. Asa,
I'm Mata. I'm a second-year economics student at King's College London, and I'm really happy to be here today. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is about marketing. Obviously, you have a breadth of experience in that space, so I thought that would be the most appropriate. It has two parts. The first part is, what do you think is the biggest misconception about marketing, especially in the publications industry? And the second part would be for students who are listening to us who might think marketing is something interesting for them, but they don't know how to start learning about it. And if they don't have classes, for example, at university for it, how do you think they should start learning about marketing?
Okay, thanks. So I think the most frustrating misconception is around, marketing is just the pictures and the colours, and the creativity is all around advertising. And although that's a big part of what we do, the science behind what marketers do and the technology we use and the data we work to, it's far more technical and scientific than I think sometimes the perception is. Also, in all the years that I've worked in marketing, that still we have this conversation at, how do you get CMOs on the board, or CMOs marketers having to justify their spend, and continually fighting to educate people around the value of it. I think that's some of the misconceptions. Is that it's more just spending money on ads. So we work very hard at that to really educate people on and what it really is. And that's a big part of actually a marketer's job, is to make sure that people understand, we can translate the story. The second part of the question was, how do people...
Students who want to get involved in the space, but they don't have any idea how to get involved, I guess. Where should they start?
So I think there's, a lot of influencers, a lot of people to follow and read and listen to in this space. I think people like Mark Ritson, people like Scott Galloway. I think being, signing up to, there's loads of courses, loads of books, loads of interesting people to be able to start to follow, to just learn a bit more. Is a good entry point.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining us today. And of course, thank you, Fiona, for sharing all your insights and your expertise with us. It's been a pleasure. And I wanted to remind to our listeners a few things. Of course, check it out if through the license finder you got access from, and thanks to your school and the Financial Times, to an FT subscription. If not, check it out, the FT Edit. We have been talking about it today. We have been talking about it in the past episodes. It's a great way to get a taste of a Financial Times. So check it out and download it. It's free for a month. So also let us know what you think in your comments. And we cannot wait for the next episodes. Keep tuning in with FT Talent and The Talent Show and all the other amazing podcasts that we have at the Financial Times for free for you on your platforms. Thank you. This has been The Talent Show, which is produced by the FT Talent team, Aya Al-Shihabi, and me, Virginia Stagni. Our podcast producer, editor, and sound engineer is Arturo Ochoa, and our social media producer is Letizia Clementi. Our music is by Dennis Kishuk. Check out all of the Talent Show episodes at fttalent.ft.com, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and follow FT Talent on socials for updates. Until next time, and keep listening.